Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a warm welcome to Dean Babinski, honored faculty and staff, fellow law students, beloved partners, and dear friends who join us here tonight. Let me first acknowledge that we are currently on the ancestral and unceded territories of the Coast Salish peoples, and on behalf of our faculty, we are grateful for the ways in which this land has been maintained with such care and respect. Second, let me express a very sincere thank you. I am deeply honored to have been elected as valedictorian and to have been given this opportunity to speak on behalf of such an incredibly accomplished and wonderful group of my peers. This may be slightly premature, but it is a great source of pride to graduate alongside such great minds. Now, for tonight's topic, Brian Stevenson had asked me to speak about intersectional oppression, but I've chosen instead to focus on Michael Elliott's favorite topic, privilege. Now, I'm not talking about the privilege that ends when litigation ceases, or as pertaining to solicitor-client exchanges. I'm referring here to this phrase most of us have used and heard since we embarked on this legal journey 3 years ago. It's such a privilege to go to law school. When privilege is referred to in this way, what exactly does that mean? Given lawyers' preferences for numbered lists, I propose that in this context, it has two dimensions. The first dimension takes us back to 1946. It is UBC Law's second year in existence, and E.A. Lucas has just written an article in The Advocate entitled Faculty of Law. He recalls an anecdote about the humble beginnings of our school. He says, "Army huts," said an old soldier to me. "Imagine people trying to sit down and study law in an army hut." So the dean took me into the first one. Bright, warm, spacious, long shelves along the sides, already well lined with law books, handsome tables made right outside, bright new paintwork, and the young men and women. One might have thought that the arrival of the president of the university, the dean of the faculty, and two inquisitive-looking strangers would have been met by glances and whispers, but not a head was raised. These young people were studying law. "They're eager," smiled the dean. This quote reminds us we are part of a lineage of thinkers, of students who for the last 70 years have enjoyed a privilege of access, benefiting from the wealth of resources, guidance, and legal training required to equip us to practice law in both analytical and creative ways. Historically, we know that this was a door open to very few. In 1951, Constance Dora Holmes Isherwood was one of 8 women in her class of 200 men, and the first woman to receive the distinction of gold medal winner as a law graduate in Canada. The following year, the Honorable Madame Patricia Proudfoot would graduate from this faculty, going on to shatter the barriers of sexism, becoming the first woman judge in 3 levels of court in this province, including the BC Supreme Court in 1977. The class of 1962 saw Justice Lance Finch graduate, his judgments embodying a conscience of fairness and a lifelong commitment to enabling access to justice. And Justice Yakabuchi, who graduated that same year, I'm sure by now we have read enough of his judgments to understand the magnitude and gravitas of his contributions to this profession. Our lineage includes many other notable law graduates who have shaped Canada's legal and socio-political landscapes. Anna Fung, class of '84, whose ascendancy into the world of corporate law from humble beginnings as a Chinese immigrant saw her become fluent in 6 languages and assume the presidency of the BC Law Society. Louise Mandel and Leslie Pinder, who in forming the preeminent firm Mandel-Pinder in 1983, worked on the seminal Aboriginal rights cases of Guerin, Vanderpeet, and Delgamuukw. This is in addition to class of 1956 law grad Thomas Berger, who acted as counsel for plaintiffs in the 1973 Calder case, the very first instance in which the Supreme Court of Canada recognized the place of Aboriginal title in Canadian law. Wally Opal, class of 1965, who oversaw the independent inquiry into policing in British Columbia. Canada's first and only Prime Minister, Kim Campbell, class of 1982. Justice Lynn Smith, class of 1973, our school's first dean, and whose prolific career includes more professional accolades than I have time to recount. And Obiora Okafor, who grew up during military rule in Nigeria, went on to graduate from UBC Law in 1994, and in 2011 was not only selected to the advisory committee for the UN Human Rights Council, but was also awarded the Canadian Association of Law Teachers Academic Excellence Award, one of the highest honors for law teachers across Canada, and the list goes on. Such diversity of accomplishments indicates the many professional trajectories a law graduate may take with his or her wealth of resources and legal knowledge. In essence, this degree now becomes our passport to influencing the course of history by enabling us to capitalize on the information and training we, very select few, have been privy to since we began at UBC Law. The second dimension, and I'm amazed we've already heard one quote by bell hooks, but I also have a bell hooks quote. Thank you for stealing my thunder. The second dimension of privilege was summed up by American author, feminist, and amazing activist bell hooks when she said, "Privilege is not in and of itself bad. What matters is what we do with privilege." Applied more directly to the realm of law, fellow American historian and author Howard Zinn writes, "I knew that the letter of the law was not as important as those who held the power in any real-life situation." These thoughts speak to a privilege of responsibility, the notion that our lineage galvanizes strength both in its roots and in its potential for legal innovation and positive change in the future. So who are we, and where do we fit into this lineage of privilege? We came in as commerce and business grads, artists, professional ballerinas, travelers, athletes, government workers, musicians, academics, environmentalists, parents, small business owners, labor rights advocates, and activists. We hailed from Canada's biggest cities, smallest towns, and rural backcountry, and from overseas. Yet despite our different backgrounds, something about the law intrigued each of us. In addition to our own unique perspectives, we shared an intellectual curiosity and a passion for learning, a borderline neurotic sense of ambition, and a set of goals that have most likely shifted over the last 30 years. Since then, we have already achieved a great many things. Among us, we have students who have published papers and influenced change in criminal legal procedure in this province. We have those who will be clerking at all levels of court in this country, who have volunteered countless advocacy hours, organized community events to raise donations for worthy causes, successfully launched their own apps, and done meaningful international work. We have made a very worthy beginning. So what will we remember about UBC Law? We will remember winning and losing LSLAT files and researching for pro bono, countless hours, agonizing hours in the library, hoarding food to the best of our abilities while attempting to go undetected, fretting needlessly over public law memos and mini nudes, the perpetually broken toilet in the women's bathroom in the basement, paying for hot water in the law cafe, rugby games and circus hockey, law review whereby 3L we finally understood the jokes because we got to write them, the OCI Hunger Games, the daily bombardment, Jen, career service office, email announcements, pet therapy and free massages, coffee and donuts, law games, the faulty ventilation system in our brand new multi-million-dollar state-of-the-art law building, sloppy nights at Darby's and possibly even sloppier nights at the boat cruises and semi-formals, the panic of clerkship interviews and mood competitions, that very awkward shirtless ball trampoline game. gold shorts, Dave Kemp's very dirty mustache, coffee at Great Dane, coffee at Starbucks, coffee at Blue Chip, and if in dire straits, coffee at the Law Cafe. CBA mentorship receptions where our mentors wouldn't show. Friend dinners, friend vent fests, friend support and encouragement over these last 3 years. We are law graduates standing on the precipice of major legal and social change, and in our lifetime, rest assured we will be called on to grapple with the law's shifting contours. We are already seeing the problematic rise of self-represented litigants and a terrible decline in legal aid, perpetuating an access to justice crisis. Lawyers and non-conventional legal minds will be needed to negotiate Aboriginal land and treaty rights and to ensure that the duty to upheld is given teeth and upheld with meaning. Some of us will be needed to advocate for environmental protections and financial regulatory standards, or to give substance to the meaning of consent in efforts to address sexual and gender-based violence. We will be called upon in our various professional forums to confront massive privacy concerns, to define the scope of religious freedom in Canada, to ensure the inalienable rights of LGBT persons in this country, and to contemplate rehabilitation and reintegration despite the might of the prison industrial complex. Free trade agreements, terrorism concerns, the crystallization of our international treaty obligations will require us to apply our legal lens to a hugely complex cultural terrain. As President Obama wrote in his biography, the law is also memory. The law records a long-running conversation, a nation arguing with its conscience. In my respectful submission, we are very ready to be a meaningful part of that conversation. In my respectful submission, part of the privilege of a legal education is that it allows us to dramatically redefine and reimagine the type of world we want to live in. There is no one way to capitalize on our law degrees because the privilege of legal knowledge and training also lies in the ability to effect change across any setting, to affect essentially every capacity of people's lives. Though change often comes slowly, the law is inherently malleable, and we as law graduates are uniquely situated to give back to our communities in innumerable ways. U.S. Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor once wrote, "There are no bystanders in life. Our humanity makes us each part of something greater than ourselves." As we embark on this next leg of our professional and personal journeys, may we never lose sight of our convictions and of our fair-mindedness. And may we always operate with openness, integrity, and a strong ethic of public service. May we find the resolve to dig deep on those very late nights at the office and to treat clients and others with the empathy and respect they will always deserve. I hope we always possess the courage to think outside the box, to transcend barriers, instill confidence in others, and to channel our own motivations with purpose. Most of all, I hope we never lose sight of our passions. Wherever we end up, whatever use we make of this privileged law degree, at our 5 or 10-year reunion, I will be so curious and optimistic to hear the stories of accomplishment from each of us. To close, I revert back to E.A. Lucas in his article from The Advocate. Speaking to that very first class's potential, he said, "It will be their privilege and responsibility to carry the flag and the weight. We are waiting for them and depending on them. I, for one, feel assured that they will be thoroughly equipped, well and worthily, to carry on where we leave off." Congratulations, class of 2015. We have so very much to be proud of and so much to look forward to. Best of luck to each and everyone, and thank you very much, sincerely again, for this tremendous honor.